We're live. Alrighty. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
That's a little bit, that's hard. Hey, you guys are a couple of seconds behind us, you kept throwing me off.
Yeah, Sandy, you were like 2 seconds behind, and Dave was like 3 seconds behind, and...
What were they called, like when you do that row, your thumb?
Yeah, that's kinda like, I had to stop once to see where I was.
Alright, I'll call the meeting to order. I'll look for a motion to approve the agenda, or the amended agenda as printed.
Any additions or corrections?
No.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a first and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Approve the minutes from 12/13.
We got those the other day, and read through them, they look pretty good. I'll make that motion.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. General public concerns. No one here. We will move on with Don Etler of Bolton and Mink Engineering.
I am Senator Good, and here's Don.
Oh, there's Don, 'cause you are not Don. Nice to see you.
Well, I was...
Hi, Don.
You are...
Pull up the chair if you like, or you can sit back there. It don't matter to us.
Wow, I'm living at Spirit Lake now, so you know what time I got up.
Earlier than you normally do.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good thing we had the warm day in line for you, so you didn't have to drive in snow.
A bit earlier, yeah.
I'll introduce that this time, and let Don take over here. I am Senator Guth, and live in Clemmy, Hancock County, and we've got a lot of drainage over there, and Dean Lemke and Don here approached me more than a year ago now, a year and a half ago or so, about rewriting some ag drainage law. It's been, how long since it's been touched on? 40 years? I mean, there's been teensy little...
70 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a long time, and so we proceeded and finally got something ready about 2 days before the session last year, before we couldn't even file it. So we did file it just so that it was out there, so that people could see it, and it was kind of in an official form. And our goal has been this year to go around to board of supervisors and others who might be interested and get their input, because we're not trying to shove something down on anybody. We're trying to get all the input we can so that we can actually improve our ag drainage laws. And it's a 20-page bill, and I keep encouraging people, if they want to read it, don't do it late at night. But Don has been the primary driver behind the whole thing. So Don, I'll let you tell them, they probably know who you are, but a little bit about who you are and what we got.
Well, I'm retired, semi-retired, I guess, drainage engineer. I've been worked at it for 43 and a half years before I retired, and there were things in the law that weren't right. But nobody got around to addressing them. Senator Goose here, from Hancock County, there was a movement there by several landowners that were upset with not being surprised by assessments.
Yeah, probably a good idea. We're gonna get our drainage closed sitting here.
You might as well listen.
Good idea.
And I'll
Good thought, Bruce.
pass out some things here.
Oh, we have some of
Oh,
this.
you have it, okay.
Yeah, we have some of this.
I have a quick review and problems.
Yep, we have that.
468, okay.
You have him sit in the chairs because he's really hard to hear.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe we can turn
Let's
that
get his
mic
voice
on.
up better. Thank you, I appreciate that.
Don's gotta talk louder.
Hi.
That'll probably help.
I haven't had a problem in that regard. I do have a bad cold here, and I'm apologize if I have to blow my nose a time or two, maybe, cough. So anyway, there were some landowners in Senator Goose district that, were increasingly upset with getting assessments or getting notice of hearings where there was a substantial project underway and they knew nothing about it. So, we talked about how to address this, and, we, arrived at, including a requirement for a informational meeting when you hire an engineer, or at the time you're going to hire an engineer to do a study, you have send a simple mailing, and you have a meeting, and, regard to to inform the landowners that a petition has been filed, we are proceeding with the study, we're gonna hire an engineer in 6 months, a year, you're gonna have a hearing, what happens at the hearing, what your rights will be, and that, you will be assessed for this, work to come. That's how we got started. Okay? And, then I asked the senator if we could do some things about, fixing some of the other issues in the law. And so that's how it evolved to a larger project here. The whole bill is, online. I sent a link to the auditor, and, you can get that from her if you haven't got it yet. It is 20 pages, and of these two documents, I think I'll refer you to the problems in chapter 468 fixes, or addresses. Number one was the landowner information, notice. Now, the law as it's now set, as we have now written it, says it's required to have for all, every time you appoint an engineer for a material project, that you have this informational meeting. We have met with 3 other counties and a good talk with the Missouri River Bottom trustee, and already encountered a problem with that, because the river districts are very large, and they don't want to have to be notified, sending a whole bunch of mailings out for what they would view as a very small project, which if the project was for a 800-acre district, it certainly wouldn't be small. So we have that problem with the range. So, we wanna put some steps, threshold steps in that, which I'll get to here. Number 2 then is, landowners given no notice or inadequate notice. Our notices now, for repairs, say that if, the cost is under $50,000, the board can proceed without a notice. And
Just give it to Ken.
I gotta get this square in my head, and the auditor can help me here. $50,000 is requires a hearing. The notice is, only in the paper, I believe, is that right?
The way I did it before was to put it in the paper and mail it.
Yeah, we, as our county, we have been notifying landowners of any major project, especially the land that borders the ditch. If we're gonna do a clean out, we send them letters notifying them. So we're one step ahead of this already.
Right.
And I think that's, been the case, that some counties have been doing this, but in the counties that weren't doing it, then suddenly it's like, oh my goodness, and people show up with the He's pretty upset, and I'm sure you've had a few
Yeah.
like that.
Right, so there is no requirement, for you to do this. The notice is, put it in the paper and not mailed. That's the law now, that's since 2014.
And if the landowner lives in Florida, he may not get the paper.
Right.
That's right, yes, so that's the law. Yes, some counties have ignored that, and continue to do it the old way, mail and notice. We think it should go back to mail and notice, so that, and publish notice. The law, it was changed in 2014 to say that you could forego publishing if mailing was cheaper. Well, that's a mistake, because the publishing is where you notify the occupants of the land and the mortgage holders and the banks and everyone else. So we're fixing that too. We've used number 4 here, we've used the DOT's competitive bid threshold for determining when you had to have a bid letting, and you had to have a hearing, when you had remonstrance rights. Well, that's one number, that's 139,000 today, and it applies to all the districts. It was adopted in 2014, primarily to satisfy the larger districts who were struggling with the small. It had to be more than $25,000. If it was more than $25,000 or some percentage of the original cost, then you had to have the hearing for a 50,000 acre levy district. That's means they had to have a meeting for just about everything. So back in 2014, they raised that to that 140,000. That created problems for the smaller districts, because they were going to hearings now with loss of remonstrance rights for a project that might cost them $150 an acre or something like that. So the way to fix this then is to set up threshold, a table of steps for the smaller districts to have smaller requirements, and the larger districts can have larger ones. And we have a table in the other handout on the third page.
This is roughly based off of cost per acre of some sort of...
Right, yes. Roughly, for repairs, I think $30 an acre, $20 to $30 an acre they would fall in, and for improvements, half of that. So if it were looking at the first table here, if it were a district under 2,000 acres, then, and if the cost was less than 60,000, then the board could proceed without a hearing. You could still have a hearing, but you would need to have it. If it's a 16,000 acre district, 300,000 would be your limit. And then for 64,000 acres, it'd be $500,000. So that addresses the big district's concerns about having meetings, the cost of getting a meeting together for a relatively small project, yet still allows for the drainage districts that are smaller to retain their hearing rights. The other table then is for improvements, and these dollars are half of what they are for the repair. These are just numbers that we put some thought into it, but we're looking for input how to make them better, if we can do that from the board members. So this then sets the hearing requirements for an improvement, and it also is the trigger for the remonstrance. So if it was a 2,000 acre project and a $30,000 improvement, remonstrance rights would apply. For less than that, you would have no authority to proceed without a hearing, but you could have a hearing. Yet the levy districts could, say a 32,000 acre levy district, could have a $200,000 improvement before their remonstrance rights kicked in, their hearing requirements kicked in. This is a serious attempt to cover all of the districts, under the law, from very small to very big, so they're treated more fairly.
So both these charts have the, like the 2,000 on the left with 60,000, are those including the engineer costs then too? For the 2,000 with 60,000 repair, the exceed, so that would include the engineer's fees in that? Because the engineer fees is what really chews up a project.
A small project,
Yeah, there's...
I mean, it's
That's like saying,
unbelievable.
you got a $30,000 project, 10,000, that would be engineering fees probably.
At least.
yes, it might be. Now, for a repair, that's the other thing here we touched on, or we're touching. But for a $8,000 project, it's $200,000. But it's what you're going to assess.
Mhm.
Now, just while we're talking about this, and you got it broke down to repair versus improvement, which is fine that you put this together, but there is no remonstrance for repairs.
Right.
And,
This is just a hearing.
yeah, but that seems to befuddle a lot of this. Then like Rick mentioned, we're trying to be a step ahead of everything so that folks know when we could have go back to the old number of a $50,000 repair, but we decided it's best to send out notices that, you know, this section of ditch is being cleaned out, and it may end up being $50,000. We've already discussed that, and we're already doing that, so that people aren't shocked, you know, because you start getting down to these, you know, well, the improvement one still kinda confuses me, but the repair one, there is no remonstrance on repairs, and obviously, the way the numbers are put together right now, if you get to, investigating a needed project, repair, and then all of a sudden, it's really gonna be an improvement, then we have to move into the, you know, improvement side of...
Yeah, once you enlarge a tile, then you have to go through the
We
process.
have to go through the process
That's right.
regardless of the
That's
cost.
what I think, this is kinda mute to us.
It is. I agree.
Because typically, when we go out and repair something, it's because it's 100 years old, and everybody in the whole area says, it's too damn small, we need to improve it.
Yep, and if we go to the improvement, which we had on it, and luckily, it's not a huge project, but it's an improvement, because it's an old system that needs to be upsized, and we've started that process to hopefully complete next year. So, that's fine, and we don't know what I don't think we even have a cost estimate on it yet, they're working on it, but, I mean, I think that it you know, kinda complicates matters rather than simplifies them.
Yeah, it makes
You know,
it more confusing
Yeah.
rather than easier.
And we've already come to the conclusion in our county that, you know, we're not gonna send out a notice if we're gonna have a $5,000 repair on a tile. I mean, that's just what it is, but, you know, when we get into, you know, $50,000 branch of a ditch being cleaned, we've decided it's best to send out the notices so folks are aware. There's no remonstrance or anything involved, it's still legitimately repair, but we've already don't like people being surprised that it wasn't the $500 tile repair, it was the $50,000 ditch clean out, and they're aware of it. So,
Right.
and I know you're
Right.
attempting to accomplish some of that with this.
Trying to put this in code, actually.
Well,
It's...
but, you know,
Is there anybody else taking anything to legislature this year for drainage, or?
Not that I know of. We had some, what did we pass? It was something about thresholds last year that we passed, about when we had to hire an engineer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, that was from the 50 to the 139.
Yeah.
right.
Because there's a lot of things that could actually be improved. I mean, especially on the drainage clerk side, you know,
Notices,
notices, when you do, easements, anything. I mean, there's just a lot of things that could use some adjustment. And I know Mona Bond does a lot with it also. At the drainage meetings, she talks to the drainage clerks and helps get them.
Yeah, she's a lobbyist for the IDEA.
But, yeah,
This is, you doing it the way, but other counties do it differently. And we're trying to lay it out here, so this is how, and to accommodate the large district versus the small district.
And I'm trying to talk to the districts that have a bunch of drainage districts, or the counties, because I don't need to go down to, Taylor County or someplace.
Yeah, where they don't have it.
Fill it out of the creek and you don't worry about tile.
Right.
Or you can see it and yet you do have to go across your neighbor's place for 200 yards, so you just work it out with them.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure these are the right numbers, but,
But it's the thought process.
Right, yeah.
And that's why we would like to have your input.
And what we're hearing in other counties is they'd like to have higher thresholds for repairs.
Yeah, 'cause of those numbers, $30,000, boy, you could blow through that in no time.
Oh, yeah, that isn't even,
Hardly moving equipment on it
Yeah.
Right.
anymore. I mean, that's the sad thing, is that those numbers aren't very big for what the project could entail.
Well, and this is a small district, 2,000 acres, spending $30,000 improvement, well, that's $15 an acre. You gonna do it without a hearing or not? Where do you put that number?
Mm-hmm.
well, I don't, one thing we don't care for in our county, I can't speak to other counties, except the ones that we may be in contact with, aren't overly thrilled about state mandates in particular, and sometimes it's, you folks down there at the state legislature are coming up with this, essentially not a bad idea, but there's still, the state says, here's what you're gonna follow. And we appreciate, I think it was with the help of the Iowa Drainage District Association, raising the repair limit to 139 to give us, in other counties, more flexibility. And I think it's the due diligence and responsibility that people get elected to be the drainage district trustees, which in this part of the state, anybody that's a supervisor's got a big deal with drainage. But for them, and we try to be proactive, wouldn't you say, Rick? I mean, we want the landowners to know, particularly now that we're getting higher thresholds to work with on repairs, we've already made that over the last couple of years, that we're gonna send notices when we get a bigger repair project, so they know. But I don't think it's fair to try to get more engineering involved with these numbers, so that we can essentially spend more on the
I think the
project.
part one, if you're repairing something, it doesn't need to be engineered, it doesn't have to have this cost, 'cause you're just taking out a chunk of broken tile, putting in back what was there.
Yep.
You're not changing the depth, the size,
Repairing it.
but when you're doing an improvement, I think it is necessary that you have an engineer in to decide how big, how deep.
Changing it.
Yeah, 'cause you're changing things.
And I mean, I think the same can be said for ditch cleanout.
Yeah.
We're not making a new ditch, which would require engineering.
Not
We're
making-
cleaning out the old one. And basically, what we look for is competent contractors that have experience and knowledge and know-how. We run into more cost with poor engineering than we have with poor contractors in saying, well, this is a project, it's a cleanout project. And, of course, if it's a huge cleanout project, you're gonna have to go to above 139,000, it would be an I guess you'd have a bidding threshold.
You have a bidding threshold.
Even though it's not really technically an improvement, but it's been probably easier for us as the trustees, and much more cost-effective for the landowners, to bite off small chunks of ditch improvement, repair, which is essentially clean out, than it has to try to take a huge one and do the hearing on it.
And our farmers have come in and told us, don't go 30 years between ditch cleanout, do it more often. And it takes less money then,
Every piece at a time.
and do it every 15 years instead of every 30 years, so then it isn't such a huge bill when you do get it, and your ditch isn't so poor for the last 10 years that your drainage
Or more
is impaired.
Yeah.
So your drainage stays up.
Eric, this is less engineering. It's not increasing, it's decreasing.
But it seems like it, I don't know, and I don't mean to, you know, we essentially like drainage engineers, Don, you know, here's a good one. But, our due diligence as drainage district trustees is to get the best quality project at the least cost, because we're basically, the county's not spending money on drainage districts. Everybody says county tiles, which is a misnomer. County doesn't really have too many tiles, do we, Ben?
The county drainage district does.
But we get involved in paying because of where it's through the right-of-way, but it's drainage district, and we're the trustees, and I always figure you could be a trustee of a bank account, and you like, if you're the trustee of someone's bank account, to watch it carefully and not let it get out of line and not spend more money than you should. We try to do the projects cost-effectively for the people in the district where it's being done.
Now, a part of the engineer's job then is to determine who pays how much.
Yeah.
The assessments and stuff like that. And in some of these projects, like when you're doing a repair, that you're gonna maybe do it in fourths, do some this year, and then 2 years from now, we're gonna do another fourth of it and keep on going. Somebody has to determine who's gonna pay how much of each one of those. And even if you don't have an engineer, if somebody's doing it, and you're paying them a fee that would be included under engineering fee if you had an engineer, but a contractor, if a contractor's doing it, maybe he's doing the engineer's job, or maybe you're just guessing, I don't know, how are you doing that?
Well, one of the problems, and you brought up here, is the law says the board shall not divide a project into pieces to avoid hearings. It says that, but do we do that?
Well, you do, because,
As on my farm.
you know, certain parts of ditches need repair. You don't have to repair the whole dang ditch, because a portion, a half-mile
Right.
stretch has had some slough off or whatever,
Right?
you know.
So, yeah, so...
I mean, I'm all in favor when we get into improvements, that I'll support 100%. But when it comes into doing repairs, no, I'm not in support of that.
Right. That's what we're
Yeah.
actually doing
But
that.
it says that in here, says the cost of repairs exceeds, in that first box there.
Okay, all right, so this was written before the change that was adopted last year to raise to $139,000. This draft
Okay,
came
all
out
right.
2 weeks before that was passed. So that's still in the law, that's still there. And,
Are you gonna need to amend this?
yeah, we have to change it.
Well,
I'm working
yeah.
on that.
So these, numbers need to be updated in this graph.
I would definitely see where you had a repair in a 2,000 acre district that was over 139,000, people need to be notified about that, and you probably should have an engineer involved in something like that.
Yes, now, the law, the way it is written now, we're trying to fix that too.
Yeah.
There are two ways to do it. You appoint an engineer, this is for maintenance things. You appoint an engineer, or you have the county engineer do it. There isn't anything in the law that says,
Somebody's shaking their head
the
there.
law says Eric can go out to a ditch and look at that pipe and say, replace it.
Mhm.
Legally, it isn't there. Legally, it's an engineer to do that. Well, that's done. So, we're putting a language in here, and, let me see if I can get it here. The board may authorize individual board members or trustees, watch persons employed under 468-169, and other employees of the district to identify minor maintenance needs, determine and recommend repairs, engage contractors and oversee the repair work, which shall not cost more than $50,000 we have here. So, and that's...
So is that the old number?
Yes.
That was prior to the threshold being raised to 139.
Well, no,
Good question.
this pulls out the threshold, but 50,000, that's the hearing limit. Now, you still have to have, it's a 50,000 hearing limit. You don't have to have an engineer until 139,000. So this is the 50,000, this is being done by a non-engineer making a call and doing fixes on the ditches. That's what I think you do already. Or every county does it a little
Yeah.
different. But, so that, right now, is not in the law, but so we're putting it in the law. The board may also engage the county engineer and secondary roads department under section 468-126 to manage said minor repairs. And also larger repairs with construction costing less than the district's repair cost threshold, which would be, $139,000 today. But it would be the threshold that's in here. But not more than $150,000. That is there because that would then be, the county, an engineer is looking at things 50,000 to 150,000. And that would be where you wouldn't need to be taking bids. If you're taking bids,
It's after 139.
yeah, and
Did I read in there that between 50 and 139, you're supposed to be taking competitive quotes though? I feel like I read that somewhere.
yes. And what we're, that is what Senate File 500 says now. It took the existing law and it put thresholds in on the bid, the repairs under 50,000, or then the competitive quotes up to 139,000. That is still there. I don't know where you want to go on that. If you want to tell a local, you got a $125,000 project, and you tell a local contractor, do it. Or if you wanna get quotes.
I have a question before I forget to ask it. Have you, been in contact with the Iowa Drainage District Association on this?
Well, at Senator's hearing on March 2nd,
And at that time, Don was on the call, but he could not get connected, so he couldn't answer the questions.
You did meet with the Iowa DDA?
Right.
IDDA?
They were not understanding a part of this, so they got messed up on.
so no, we need to meet with them.
Right.
Yeah, they're aware of this, 'cause we've discussed it.
Okay.
And some of our-
So, I mean, but not, I mean, it would seem that would be a logical,
First step.
yeah, entity, because we certainly have been a long-time member, and I think that they work diligently for drainage districts. I think it's a good organization. Rick's on the board, don't you? I mean,
Yeah. And I can't really say, 'cause it's been several months ago that we discussed, it was in the summer, I think, when we discussed this. I think our board, some of it was favorable, some wasn't. So it wasn't like unanimously, like we all like it, and it wasn't unanimous, we all dislike it.
Well,
So,
it's 20-some pages.
yeah.
Now, I helped organize the Iowa Drainage District Association.
There are bits and pieces in there that people like, and there's people...
hey, well, you should've stuck it out. You could've been with John Tolbert.
You're sitting down there at the State House having all kinds of fun.
So yes, we're going to take it to IDDA. We want IDDA support. We want the river district support. We want the big district support and the small district support, on this.
Yeah, 'cause there's like you say, it's hugely different in southwest Iowa than what we have up here.
Right. And we're already looking at changes to it, and we'll discuss them here. These thresholds have to be looked at, and how we handle the small repairs has to be looked at too.
Well, with 99 counties, you have 99 different ideas, but you also have a whole bunch of different needs from the south to the north. And in my opinion, I applaud the effort of trying to make some changes to 70-year-old laws that, every time we go into one, we tread lightly because we wanna make sure we're doing it by the book. And when we do it by the book, then the farmer doesn't have the ability to come in and say, you guys didn't do this right. So,
Right.
we're 6 of one and a half dozen of the other. I'm all for it, I just wanna make sure that we aren't just kinda putting more frosting on the cake and saying, we made some improvement.
Right, a lot of this is going to put in the code what you do. It's to pull back the engineering from the small projects. Number five, I think, is an important one. Remonstrance. Under the current law, there's two places where remonstrance is written. It's in the establishment and it's in the improvement section, 126. In the establishment, it says the people that have a right to object are those who are going to be assessed for the work. But in the improvement section, 68-126, it says the district has the remonstrance. Now, we get into, and this has been a bugger for years, and I've run into some terrible projects with terrible results because of this. So we have a district that has two mains, or three mains, and we're gonna do work on the one main. And there's one assessment schedule. So the entire assessment schedule is notified, and they are given remonstrance rights. So we have people who aren't gonna be paying a penny, deciding whether to object or not. And if they, decide to object, they may kill a project that the people that want it can't get.
That's right. They desperately need it, but they can't get it because they're too small.
Right, or the other way around. And the same thing applies with laterals, tile laterals, if the tile laterals are not separated out. Now, I know boards try to work with this, and we advise them, okay, these are the lands that are benefited. Consider them, not the whole district. But boy, you can get some public uproar.
Quite honestly, I think we've done some of that.
And we've done some of
that.
We do that already.
Yeah.
I guess we don't have to have a law making us do it.
Because if we see something that, granted, it could have been there for 100+ years, and then when you get to said lateral, or whatever, and it's not broken down, we've broken it down.
Yeah.
And we've sent it to where the person the district is large, but these people are getting nothing and should have no say from the people down here that are doing the, whether it's an improvement or it's just a repair. They're the ones that should be, that's, I think, essentially what that's saying. They're the ones that should have the say-so.
The people are gonna be...
Paying the bill, yeah.
Paying the bill.
Yep.
Pay the class, or have the right to the remonstrance.
Yes.
And only then.
What I think Don's trying to do here is take the counties that aren't doing the
Make
right
them
things
do it.
and make them do it, without trying to step on the toes.
Sometimes that
of the
happens.
counties that are doing the right thing.
Sometimes that happens, though, when it's good intentions, and it ends up being...
That's why we're doing it this way.
And it ends up being more of a mandate that,
Right.
I think that's...
And that's why I'm talking to you today, because we don't wanna do the dumb thing.
Well, the mandate is there, notify everybody.
Yeah.
You're going against it.
No, but we're needed, and I think we have the ability to do that. So that,
That's if you have one classification for the total district.
Yeah.
And what we've done is had the pre-classification done
Yeah,
before that separated it out.
we do it before, so then the landowners know before the project starts what it's gonna cost them, approximately.
Yeah.
Always add 30%.
I have been involved in that, and I've had projects, huge projects fail.
Oh, yeah.
But there was support for it, they just looked at the people that wanted it.
Mhm.
So,
And I think that's a good idea to do pre-classification, because that gives the landowners that are involved the best idea of what they could potentially pay.
classification is more automated and cheaper, you can do that, and we do it often. That in itself, can cause problems.
Oh, yeah, it can kill a project too, 'cause then all of a sudden people think, oh, man, this is what's gonna cost me? I just lost a lot of interest in it.
Right, and, but not only that, but, people then object to things that are based upon, this is my assessment, well, it's not there, it's a preliminary assessment. It could be different than that when we're done. So, this, I don't consider this mandate, I look at drainage law as a 100-year-old system that's worked very well. And it's because of each county having their own flexibility, it gives them strength. And I don't think this takes away from that. I think it supports it. But this system of doing minor maintenance work, that's all local. There's nothing in the law that says you can do that. We're trying to put that in the law.
Nothing in the law says you can't do it either. Correct.
I can't rob a bank, I don't think.
So, my question is, these things, these two sheets here are proposals, is what you guys are proposing. Because you said some of it was a first draft, or is it, I mean, this is the way you're going with it.
The Ripley file, Senate File 500 file. This is what is in that Senate File 500.
Is anything going to be tweaked from?
Oh, yes.
I think so.
Yeah.
How's this look when you guys get back there in January and start your whole process? I know it's just a lot of fun, but...
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, this is gonna take the same kind of sales job in the Senate as it does out here. And you said we have 99 different opinions about it, well, we'll probably only have 50.
Yeah.
Because
I think there's
half of the
60
counties that
counties
just,
in the...
what's a drainage district?
I know, South Ave doesn't know
Yeah.
what district.
Unless they're way over next to the
I know there's
Missouri
not a
River.
big chunk of it.
So, and I know one of the, when we passed this one about the thresholds, $139,000, there was one senator who's a farmer. We got 13 farmers in the Senate, actually, so we're well represented. But he said, you guys wouldn't believe it, but there are some counties out there that've got 20 different drainage districts in it.
Yeah,
I said,
20.
well, wait a minute,
Yeah.
Senator, you better make that at least 200.
Yeah.
20.
Yeah.
So, there's some people that understand the concept, but really don't understand the complexity of what drainage districts do. And so we have to explain that to them. And if we go back in the history and how 100-plus years ago now, when we invested that first money in here, when the folks homesteaded out here and they had a swamp, and they said, you know, this could be good land if I could get some of this water out here. And that's when we spent as much money on drainage in northern Iowa as what they spent digging the Panama Canal at the same time. And that was a big deal, and people sacrificed a lot to make that happen. And what's unfortunate now is, I see it with a lot of I'm in a couple of drainage districts, and most all those people are older than I am, and they really aren't very interested in an extra $20,000 or $50,000
Right.
to implement
Well,
things.
they're kinda like the people who originally put in the system. They paid a huge cost, and now this generation is getting that huge cost again
Right,
because it's wore out, or it's too small.
yeah. And
So you're doing it for your grandkids, kind of.
And so I want to be able to promote that a little bit as, don't think of it as you got to pay it off in 5 years. And one of the things we looked at is making sure that there's a good way to finance this for the poor guys that say, I can't afford that $50,000, it'll put me out of business.
Yeah, there is we've run across that where the way some estates have been structured, the people who are, having to pay the bill aren't getting the money
Yeah.
from the estate. They get the bill, but they don't get the money from the state to pay the bill. So then what do you do?
20-year installment.
Yeah, I mean...
That is one part of the code that is not very clear either. Is it 20 years, or is it 10 years at 2 payments, or... But 20 years is a long time to be paying on something when, you have change in...
Ownership.
You have change in employees and drainage districts and that, and...
What about paying early?
Hudson will tell you it's not, you can't
I
do
think-
less than 10.
Well,
In
we've had
paying early.
issues where farmers wanted to pay it off. Well,
Or they wanna pay early.
yeah.
You can pay
Even people,
off.
we got a project started, we wanna pay for it now.
That's the problem.
Hard with our,
We had high corn prices this year, let's get three-fourths of it paid right now.
Yeah.
Interest through December 1, I think, no matter when you pay it.
mhm. And
Something like
it's
that, yeah.
very difficult in the accounting program to do that. They have to hand adjust everything.
Yeah, 'cause there's no software out there for it.
Right.
But
But,
We have
for engineers' complaints here, the way it's set up now, every assessment schedule has to be done by, May 1st. So we can, or April 1st, so you can certify May 31st your levies. Whereas before we had computers, you could do that any time of year.
right,
Took you that long.
I did.
Nice to spread it out.
And that's another thing, you're getting tons of interest by waiting to levy. So if you could levy more frequently, it'd be better.
Yes.
And that, we've accommodated.
But every one of those, like you throw that out there, sends another office into a tizzy because, well, we only levy on certain times and we can't throw another one of them at it. So, like I said, anything that we can do to improve a 70-year-old paying, I would be in favor, but I just think that some of it, we've already been doing.
Right. So, yeah, this is looking for improving the communications through the informational meeting and better notices, fixing the remonstrance, who pay, if you're gonna pay, you can object, otherwise, no. And, describing, legalizing non-engineers doing minor maintenance things in the district, though technically it isn't. And
We usually know when we're gonna do a project if the landowners own the land that are around here because the courthouse is full, if they wanna object. But the ones that own land that are in another country, or county,
Yeah.
or state,
Florida, yeah.
and those are the ones that, you know, might call later and say, well, we didn't even realize this was, okay, you were notified, that's the problem. So,
And the legal notices are very
be nice if we could do it on a
vague,
computer.
confusing.
yeah, we are headed to that.
Well, I hope so, but we're also trying to digitize everything else, so.
We'll have to give them our email address,
Yeah.
which is tough for me. So we're looking for input.
Input, so if you would
And we-
make some notes, go through it and say, this looks bad, page 4, number 6, throw it out, change the threshold, do whatever. Just send us a list like that, so that we can work off of that.
Okay.
And because we are planning on doing some amendments, and we're not gonna try and change it with every amendment until we get through this process a little bit, or we'll be doing it forever. But, we wanna do it so that it's gonna make your job easier, not harder, or at least not step on your toes.
Well, with that in mind, we don't like the mandate thing, we don't like the stepping on the toes, and, Don, nothing against you or the wonderful engineers out there, but we don't wanna mandate that subsidize engineers, because you have to get the engineer involved for the $20,000 project, and it takes it out of our hands, 'cause I think that's why we're here.
Yeah, and that's what the law says now.
Yeah.
Now, the chapter 114 of the Code of Iowa governs practice of engineering. And if it's a public facility, the involvement of a licensed engineer in Iowa is required. That's another chapter, that's on...
That's not ag law, that's just
But
law.
it's just general law, and, it's been ignored here. What we're trying to do is make it legal.
Yeah, but there again, I know they think of county mains as public property. They're really not.
They're public improvements,
They're not. They're private improvements that are governed by trustees of the county.
well, it's a public improvement if it's paid for by tax dollars.
There again, it's, I said, that's why I say, county-wise, of all of our budget stuff, nothing in the county budget is drainage district.
No.
I agree with Rick, I mean, they're per district.
It's a tax, but it's just to the
It's theirs.
people who own it.
And that's why I think wholeheartedly agree with making sure in a big district, in the lateral or whichever, that gets correct, so that only the people that are dealing with that area are the ones that have
You
to
start calling
say
them public, then all of a sudden, people can walk dredge ditches and hunt them and stuff. You don't wanna go into that category of public property. It's not, it's the farmer's land. We govern it, basically.
We're the trustees of the district they happen to be in.
Yeah, you're like the city council.
Not quite like a city council,
You're the umpire is what it
but more like the umpire.
Because everybody's unhappy with something.
That's right, we're the referee, and nobody likes the referee.
Nobody likes us at all.
Nobody likes the referee.
And this is an especially big problem in my county of Hancock County.
It is.
Because we had decades of a county engineer that did a lot of this stuff out of his office and didn't ever charge for it like he should, so the county paid for it instead of, if they had hired Don, it would've been the people in the district paying for it. And because he did that for decades and did
We aren't doing that to our county, because we like him to concentrate on the road.
farmers there are going, oh my goodness, we've never had to pay all these engineering fees.
Yeah.
And they're just going bananas over it, but it's because we had somebody that did a great job, but probably didn't have the authority to do everything he did.
Bill Waddington.
Yeah, Bill.
Yeah.
Does the secondary road, the county engineer handle minor maintenance things in this county?
We handle minor maintenance projects that are within the county's right of way, but as far as clean outs, we don't have a long reach. We don't get
Right,
involved.
you don't have a crew that goes out and...
No, it's, every county's different.
Anything in the right of way, they fix.
Right.
I know, like you said, back in the day, I've heard stories of where Bill would do that in Hancock, he'd send his crews out and they would...
Yeah, well, they still do it. I had a suck hole out in the middle of a field, and they came out and fixed it, where they had to replace 40 feet.
I can see where that...
They turn around and bill it back, I don't think there's
Yeah.
an issue with it.
But they didn't.
But if they're
Well, they
not...
do now, yeah, but, and I can appreciate that, where that's a good story, an example,
That's where the
because
taxpayer dollars...
they should have been getting an engineering fee, rightfully so, for what they were doing, and they weren't, and then when the district got that, they said, where'd this come from? Because they were so unused to it that things like that need to be corrected.
And I gotta be real careful in my county when I talk about this stuff, because, man, they are hostile.
Sioux County, the secondary road department doesn't do anything.
No. We don't, in this county, now Pocahontas County, I think, does a lot.
Yeah, they have their crews.
Yep,
Have staff that, so everyone is different.
yep.
Well, we appreciate you coming.
Senator, are you, with the redistricting, is there a
I will
possibility you
be-
might be our
I
senator?
will be your senator in 23.
That's what I thought.
I heard that last
Okay.
night.
What?
I saw Tim Grine up at the wrestling.
Yeah.
Tim said that you were okay, so we're gonna go with that.
I started 2 years before he did, and, when he came in as a freshman, he was really discouraged. We were in a minority, and he's like, man, we aren't getting nothing now. I had to take him aside and talk to him for a little while, so he didn't just quit and not show up anymore.
How'd you do with your redistricting then? Where'd you?
I lost 3 counties. I had Emmett, Cassuth, and Winnebago County that I lost, and I picked up Humboldt, Franklin, and Hamilton.
So how you feel you worked out that trade? Good in that deal?
As far as politically, about the same,
And you live where?
in Hancock County.
Fleming.
Fleming.
You live in Fleming?
I live,
Or right by Fleming?
yeah, I'm the first farm out of town on the north side, and I farm right up to town.
Awesome, okay.
So I,
East or west of Clemens?
So you think about putting a hog building right up next to town, are you?
I thought about that 20 years ago, but not no more, no.
So you still have
In the
Hancock?
right county?
Yes, Hancock and Wright are the other two.
Okay.
There's 5 counties. And I just finished putting in, 89,000 feet of tile this fall, and I put in about 20,000 in the spring, so I got over 100,000 foot of tile that we put in this year. I feel like I understand a little bit about what drainage is, not necessarily the part you guys do. I mean, I've been to some hearings, and I know how nasty it can get. That's one of the main reasons that people don't wanna run for county supervisor.
Well, I mean, people in our county are pretty civil, though. We've had some...
Most of them.
We've had a lot of disagreements, but they're pretty civil, so...
Kim wants to talk?
Most of them.
I said most of them.
Yeah.
I've been blessed to work with a great bunch of county supervisors my whole life, and landowners too. And they're becoming more business.
And if you can get landowners that are under 70 years old, it's not too bad, but boy, those old guys.
Well, we appreciate you.
I
$5,
mean,
so
preacher's coming done.
Try to put something together
Yeah.
and get it to you
Well,
then.
I would certainly appreciate that.
We,
Can you leave Kim your email, or however
Sure.
you want that sent?
I think I got
How?
a card with me here, yes.
we've met with 3 boards, we meet with 3 today,
Last month I had
or 2 today, 1 tomorrow,
a bunch of them today.
and, levy district.
Well, and she can give us, can we get your number off that too then?
Yep, that's my cell phone number.
We look forward to seeing you.
Loading manure or...
We look forward to seeing more of you.
Next time
Yeah,
we meet,
you will probably be seeing more of them.
I talked to Kim Cranberry.
usually about the middle of...
Well, he said, I will be your senator for this,
Yeah.
23.
And I'm,
So did you-
I'm kinda planning on starting to get to know people here in
Stop by.
22 a little bit.
Are you,
That means I'm gonna try and cover 8 counties instead of 5.
I
I
know.
don't have to do the whole...
you got, yeah, you didn't beef up your election cycle?
No, I was an even number before,
But not with
and
Jacobson.
I stayed at even number, so that puts me in the, presidential
Presidential,
cycle.
see, it screwed up
And I
Tim's.
don't have any other appointments. I missed one, Senator Sweeney by 3 miles, and Senator Jesse Green by 7 miles.
So you don't have to move, you're there, they did change a lot of stuff around for you.
I don't move very much.
Okay.
I live in the same house that I've always lived in since I was born.
No, that's not much moving.
No. I moved 16 feet once when we added on the house.
Nice, nice.
won't be up till 2024, then.
Right.
Let me know.
Would you like to come to our meeting?
Well,
Yeah, I think it'd be good.
We need to meet.
Yeah, if you've got the board.
More so than the...
I got one more card left.
Good contact.
You mean We've been doing a rotation lately. We meet in different places and...
Well, I got-
They were up in Esterville the last time, I think.
Well, you missed the hornet's nest by about 2 weeks. You could've been on there as the speaker down at first part of December, and the big meeting.
Representatives and run their newsletters in the
Right.
paper, so.
Yeah, I don't know how that's
No,
gonna
I'll
work next
visit
year,
with,
if I'll try
John,
to
and
maybe
maybe he'll
let it
send you-
down here once in a while, as well as up there, I mean...
But that's gonna be good for you to come and visit with us.
I say 100%.
I agree.
Visit with that association, absolutely.
Yeah.
Take Senator Guth with you. You go visit with him too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, you might be
I went to the
busy.
annual meeting last year, and I really would like to see more pattern tiling done, because I think it will improve our water quality. And when people go, oh, you put in so much time, you dump more down. No, that's not true. If you have a dry sponge out there, when it rains, you got a place for it to be filtered through, instead of, you get a 4-inch rain, it's
It runs-
into the river.
Hey, Bruce, he could be the speaker at the next IDDA. Bruce would love that. You can only talk for 10 minutes though, but that'd be fine.
I am not a long-winded guy normally. Once in a while you can get me over 10 minutes, but most of the time, that'll take care of it.
We had some great presentations down there that really had little, if any, practicality to drainage districts. I'll just say it that way.
Well, in our area, 'cause we don't have the...
Maybe if you, that might have been
The
a...
50,000 acre one that goes...
That might have been a huge presentation in Nebraska, I don't know, but it wasn't here.
Well, we appreciate you coming.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, it's good to meet you.
And I appreciate the fact that you didn't say, oh, that's a great idea, do it. I appreciate the fact that you've got some good criticism. You know, none of us likes criticism, but...
Oh, we're fairly critical, don't kid yourself.
We can send you Kent's article to see what he says about it on Thursday and
Okay,
let you know.
sure, appreciate that. Thank you much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Look forward to this again now.
All right,
yeah.
Over to Wright County.
So, well, watch that group over there, they're a little bit more,
I was there last week because they had the carbon pipeline.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
how'd that go? I heard that was a little
Okay. Well, that was a little testy.
testy, yeah.
Special project thing.
The ones they did early during the fall when farmers were in the field, there wasn't much resistance because the farmers were in the field.
They were-
Aha, that happens.
Yeah, I heard that it was a little testy over there, so.
Yeah, and I understand that.
No, I know a few.
Apart-
Engineers for them.
I don't like, I understand why the,
500 of us?
ethanol plants, they did, yeah, because we're gonna provide, protect our market here. But I wonder how long it'll work, because California, where they're wanting to get it in at, says by 2030, we're gonna have all electric vehicles.
Oh, boy.
You don't get much ethanol on batteries.
Yeah.
Well, I'd say let them keep moving towards their 2030 electric, 'cause I don't think they'll ever get it.
They never will.
I don't think so, but,
Yeah, I'm sure you know.
Yeah.
And I
How
think
many
that'll-
millions of dollars do you wanna spend for a market that could evaporate?
Okay.
Yeah.
Or at least shrink? It's gonna be going, getting smaller and smaller and smaller. You wanna pursue the market that's gonna grow, not the one that's gonna shrink.
I hear whole grain is an electric.
But, in a sense,
I always figure, you know what, when the president switches Air Force One over to an electric plane, call us, because you know what, we're gonna limit his flying ability. I'm serious. They aren't gonna put him on a plane that'll fly
Biodiesel.
300 miles.
Let it gel up.
Yeah. Okay,
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you, Doug.
I took Sandy's for Kent, so we might have to
All
have
right.
another copy of that for...
Okay, I sent her a copy.
there it is, my agenda got buried.
All right, now
Alrighty.
we're gonna have to do a little
Yeah,
makeup.
got a little catch-up time to do here, Ben, so talk fast,
Can
right?
you talk?
Steve, huh? Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
On the agenda for me today, I had to approve the secondary roads budget amendment for fiscal year 2021-2022. You have a breakdown, I believe,
Yep. Mhm.
of the costs. The majority of this is new equipment that was purchased in the last fiscal year but arrived after June 30th. The breakdown is 40,000 in administration, 25,000 in ice and sand control, 450,000 in new equipment, 25,000 in plow blades, 10,000 in grass seed. And then we do have an additional 150,000 in carryover construction, for a total of 700,000.
This was purchased when?
The equipment was all ordered or purchased back in January, I believe, and then arrived, or February, and everything arrived in July
Okay.
for equipment.
Mhm.
So it was just after the fiscal year ended. The carryover construction, the first two are paving projects that we are trying to finalize right now. The remainder of an arch pipe that my Bode Secondary Road Department installed in August, and the box culvert that Whiteman did over on Washington Avenue, which will get reimbursed from the DOT ones.
So that's the 15 and the 30? Is that what those two numbers come from? Probably.
For which,
The things you just mentioned down here, the carryover.
yeah, so all four of those are carried over. The 105,000 will get reimbursed from the DOT.
DOT. Okay.
So it's, 50,000 of local construction. You have to show, so for the BR project, you have to show it as an expense, and then it'll show it as a miscellaneous receipt
Okay.
from the DOT, but you still have to show it as an expenditure.
Okay.
No way we could have $450,000 for new equipment be reimbursed?
That'd be nice.
Yeah, just slip that in there, so they catch it.
Well, we knew that was coming, 'cause we ordered it,
Yep.
and it was past the date, so I guess that's what we get.
All right. Well, we should probably,
Open,
Yeah, I'd make a motion to open the public hearing on the budget amendment.
I'll second.
okay, we have a first and a second to open the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye. 9:36.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We're in open public hearing. And now we'll kind of reiterate our discussion on budget amendment. We, talk about, the budget amendment of $700,000.
Yes. Broken down by these six categories.
Mhm.
We don't have any issues, I guess we close it?
Well, just one quick,
Are there questions? That's where, yeah.
not really, you already explained everything, but, and we already discussed it. But does the auditor have anything to add with, this is actual what we're passing, correct?
Right.
The resolution 2023, is correct?
Yeah, and here also is, public safety and legal services, there's $120,000 in that, and that was at the request of the, Public Safety Commission, and that will be finalized tomorrow in their meeting, but it comes underneath of the budget, the total budget versus their separate budget.
Yeah, so just clarification on that, with all that Trish went through, that is listed in, is this considered the general fund? Or what, I'm not the auditor, so, I mean, when we're looking at the,
Yeah.
it's not, it wasn't, the Public Safety Commission isn't able to be segregated out to its own, so it's included in this budget amendment, the $120,000, which has been duly noted in the Public Safety Commission's board's minutes, and the public hearing on that is tomorrow. But just so that everyone knows, that's actually included in this resolution. So, nothing to do with secondary roads, but just so that everyone knows, that's included in what we're passing.
Exactly.
And the total is actually $820.
Correct.
Right.
So just for
Seven
point of...
is your portion.
Yeah, point of clarification, so if someone looks at the difference in numbers, that's where it
Okay.
is.
Now with no
Any
more questions?
Any more
You guys
discussion?
good? I'll make a motion to close the public hearing at 9:39.
second.
Okay, we have a first and a second on closing the public hearing. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 2021-23,
I'll second.
county budget amendment.
There you go.
First and a second, any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, the resolution is adopted, amending the budget. Okay.
Can I just have these? Oh,
Hey, Ben, I got a, question yesterday. Someone asked me about, the Bradgate blacktop and the Addison blacktop down at the south end there, the light has been out for a couple of months, they said. Do we call the
So, we have to call those.
Mid-American?
Yeah,
Alright.
Sue's got a list there as far as whether it's Mid-Americans or
That's what I wanted.
Midland Power.
he just said that light's been out for a couple of months, and before somebody had an accident there.
Right,
He said, well,
Addison
Yep,
corner.
yep.
They probably won't
And I guess
get to it
if
for a
that's the
while.
case, we might wanna put a little bleep that if someone has a light like that that isn't on, if they would give Sue a call, and that way we can check with them.
Yeah, so, as people see the lights, usually they give our office a call and notify us, and then we contact the provider.
Right.
And
Well, I know the provider's probably on the list of
They're probably pretty busy right now.
I bet you won't get at it for a little while.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't work
Power lines
yesterday,
now.
so that's a good thing. They must be getting towards the end of their obligations down south. I think there were under 200 people that were out of power
Still, huh?
Saturday night,
Wow.
so they've made a lot of progress.
My sister was out till about midnight Friday night, I think we finally came on,
From Wednesday till Friday.
from Wednesday till Friday, yeah.
Yeah.
Did we have any damage on our,
As far as secondary road shops, I think we were lucky. There is, as you guys have driven around, there's plenty of tin scattered throughout farm fields right now. Trampoline in the ditch, I saw on the way to work. A lot of people have lost doors, machine sheds.
Cleaned up a lot of older buildings.
Yeah, got rid of some of them.
A lot of damage out there.
I guess I haven't heard Todd say that we had a lot of branches or stuff down in parks either,
Yeah,
so.
probably do.
There's some.
Yeah, I'm sure there
There's
is.
some.
A lot of trees to pick, branches
Yeah.
to pick up, whatnot.
But when wind come like that, I mean, it was, I don't think we got what they were predicting, but I guess that's a
It was
good thing.
really spotty, the way it
Yeah.
sounds, and I don't know if that was twisters that kinda popped down and hit places or what, but...
I think they did call it a tornado that was down by the Dayton,
Mhm.
Hartford area.
Well,
Didn't they say one by Livermore? Wasn't there one by Livermore?
No, not a tornado.
Yeah, they mentioned it on the news,
It will, yeah. Not a tornado, but like Rick said, and even, you go north, there's a little strip, whether it was just heavier winds,
Right.
because it was hit and miss, like you said, it cleaned up a few old buildings, did get a couple machine sheds, or roofs of machine sheds, and
Yeah.
it just seemed like like you said, it was spotty. You know, 'cause little strips or whatever, whether it was just a touchdown tornado or the wind was just stronger there.
there's a kid over
Hard to say.
on the Holmes corner that put a brand new trailer.
I seen that. Brand spanking new.
Brand new, I mean, he must've just parked it there on Tuesday, and Thursday morning, it's laying on its side. And
Oh, yeah.
I'm thinking, I hope it didn't bend all of his supports, but
Mm.
Thursday or Friday morning, they had it sitting back up, so,
Wasn't good for it, I mean.
no, I'm sure it wasn't the best thing.
It doesn't look quite as
Just a
shiny as it
little-
Oh,
did
man.
before.
But I guess, you know what, we were lucky, and
Yeah.
we'll take lucky, so.
Yeah.
And I know we've received a few phone calls. We would prefer the tin not get put in the road ditch. Farmers that have it scattered out in their
Oh.
fields are wondering what they're supposed to do with it.
When it's not their tin.
Right.
Yeah, I had a pile of tin in my yard that just, like 12 sheets of old tin, and I had a bunch of lumber on it, and it just
Gone.
took that lumber and threw it, and threw the tin all out in the field. I had to go out and pick it all up yesterday.
Well, I guess
Yeah,
we're
we're running
having,
around picking up what has gotten blown in the road ditch. The contractor that was supposed to be boring underneath the high school blacktop broke down last week. He got his replacement piece shipped in on Friday. He's supposed to be back up here this morning to bore underneath the highway for that one tile line.
Oh, good.
Beyond that, we are repairing tiles ourselves, digging ditch still. Staying busy.
Good.
have we had any influx in driveway people?
Actually, we've had quite a few people, like you guys said earlier, the corn prices were really good, and we've got a lot of guys that are
Spend a little money.
spending a little money, they're writing that check and trying to get us to get in there, and the weather's still fit, you know,
Yeah.
there's no frost, so
Yeah.
We're still putting them in. I think last week we put in another 4,
Good.
so,
Wow.
I'm busy.
Yeah,
Knock on wood, we're saving on sand and
yeah.
plowing time, so,
Saving sand and fuel,
Fuel.
and blades.
Yep.
well, that's good. We'll
I
save it
like
all.
this winter so far.
I do too.
Yeah. We'll take whatever's digging whenever we can get it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, the furnace was getting installed on Wednesday when I left, to go to the engineers conference, so
Okay.
I have not walked around the backside of my office to see how it's sitting.
Yeah.
They
Okay.
obviously did not start the roof last week with the
Mhm.
high winds that we had.
Yeah, that would've been a disaster.
Yeah.
Had they had it partially done.
Yeah, so I'm anticipating them coming this week to do that.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
And we're having a work session with you, right?
Yes,
Mhm.
Brief work session.
Brief,
brief work session,
Yeah.
very brief.
Don's kinda made
yeah.
our
We'd have been-
timeframe a little,
We might have been done with the work session by now.
Yeah.
we're all right.
But, you
Thanks,
know, when
man.
we talk drainage, it always gets lengthy.
You know,
Always. Okay, let's move on down here to discuss 28E agreement for law enforcement with, and emergency services. I had a phone call from one of the cities, and they reminded me that the 28E is gonna end in July. 1st of July it'll be out of, and they're starting to do their budgets, and they wanted to know if there was gonna be any changes. So I said I'd bring it up to discussion with the board, see what the board thought, and we would put it on the agenda for next week to confirm.
Guess we'd have to see where are we now? Is there anything existing in place that has a date on it?
What is existing now is a 50-cent increase per capita every year
Okay.
going forward. We had a 5-year contract with them this last 5 years. They're fine with renewing that, from the one person I spoke with, and she had spoken with other communities.
Okay.
If there was any changes, they would like to meet with us and discuss changes.
So you know where, so, yeah, 'cause that's something
It's
told
at
me,
$12.50.
there was a 5-year agreement, but
Yeah,
it included a 50 cent a year per capita increase?
Yes.
Where is that in the 5-year period?
We are at the end of
we're,
it.
yeah.
This is the end of
This
it?
is the end, come July 1st, 2018.
End of the
is
5-year
End of the 5-year.
Well, we have to take into consideration, what the comp board decides with the, sheriff and
No.
that, those wages and that, to decide where we're going in the future.
Well, that is something to consider, because
I mean, it's gonna increase it some, you know.
yeah. So if there's thoughts of, wanting to raise the number, they would like to come and visit with us. I think it's only fair to have a discussion with, a few of the mayors who would like to attend. But I think overall, they've been happy, and I just spoke with the sheriff. He's been, content with the agreement. You know, the dollar amount isn't pertaining to him. He said things have been going well, he thought.
So you
Good, that's good.
are thinking that maybe just a renewal for 5 years at 50 cents a year increase?
We could do that, or we can raise it if we feel necessary, 'cause I know we're gonna have to pay our deputies and sheriff more.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think we need to, before we make any decisions, we need to know where we're gonna be going with those, with the sheriff and the deputy.
I would,
I think we can be beautiful on that.
I'd agree, and I'd also see what Dane has to replace. You know, I know he replaces X amount of vehicles every year. I would hope that he's not adding a deputy, or he's not needing 4 new vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
One thing we need to think about is not all entities in the county, not all towns, are paying the sheriff.
I believe,
Only a handful that's paying.
I think they all are, Dave.
Lost people.
I think they all are, but there's a group of them that are on one 28E agreement, and then there's a couple other cities that are on their own separate.
Okay,
Because I think by law, I think they have to have law enforcement.
Mhm.
And that's why this 28E agreement makes them compliant to the law. They're not all on the same schedule.
How come?
right,
Because when we did this, some were dragging their feet and they missed it, and some of them, if you didn't have this 28E agreement in place, they couldn't levy for law enforcement in their communities,
Mm-hmm.
and some of them missed the deadlines, and that's why they never got in on
It's
this
two
fund.
separate, are we talking that this,
I think there's three, for sure, different agreements.
wouldn't it be nice to have one?
I would like to get them all on one.
Is that possible?
I would like to, I know.
And we'll keep them on the same year.
They would
So
keep
we
them on
don't,
the same rotation.
we don't have them load in Livermore coming due next year after we've done
Yeah,
Right,
four
I
others.
agree. Trish, could you find all those for us and kinda give us an idea?
Yeah.
well, we can try. We'll reach out to the communities and see if we can get their copy. And, we'll put it on the agenda for next week.
Okay.
okay,
I'd also, we'll touch base with Dean and make sure that we don't have any unforeseen, and we'll have to wait till the comp board puts together their recommendation, right, for
True,
salary?
Okay, great, yep.
true.
And then
We gotta have all those numbers.
next week, we should know.
Mhm.
Yep.
okay.
All right. All right, so that's taken care of. Now we have accept and place on file the Second Judicial District Department of Correctional Services Annual Report.
That is just a formality, because that's been done, and that's obviously their own
Yeah.
board. Completely run through, voted on, approved by the board, but each county in the Second Judicial District is required to file the report to have in their county.
Yeah,
because it
being we
goes by
pay them
county.
money, we need this to put it in our
Yep,
file. It's
yeah.
basically accountable, showing what your money's going toward.
Exactly, so that the Second Judicial District as a whole wants to make sure that each county is obviously, has the information, it's on file, if anyone would ever obviously want that, it's there to look at. So, I guess
Has your budget in here, and,
it's got everything,
okay.
so. If you have any other questions, I would make a motion that we approve the Second Judicial District Department of Correctional Services Annual Report.
Second,
I have a first and a second, any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
aye,
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now we have accept and place on file the Western Iowa Tourism Annual Update and Funding Request. This here organization started a long time ago, it's the wrong one, but it's in here somewhere, I know. There it is. When they were trying to get actually Highway 20 pushed through. And it, and they, looking for $500 the way it looks.
Yeah, it looks like 500.
Mhm.
I'll make that motion to accept and place that on file.
Okay,
And as long as we're,
Oops. Now I
I mean, we'll look, put it on our
put
wish
it
list.
in the pile with the rest of them.
Well,
Yeah,
I would second Sandy's motion, I think it's a good organization, and
Yep.
I would second that.
Okay, we have a first and a second, any more discussion? All in favor?
aye.
aye,
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, now we got committee reports.
The only thing I had was Wednesday, and it got delayed because of the storm, so, or canceled, I should say. Ministerial meeting was postponed, that was it.
Okay. Okay, on the 14th, Tuesday, I had NISAC, ARPA webinar, and I honestly didn't get too much out of it. It was pretty much just a review of everything that we've been doing. There was also one from NACO that day, and for the eligible uses of the ARP money, but it was mostly geared towards, counties that are huge, and there was this company on there trying to sell their services to use for them, but I did participate in that. Again, Wednesday, we were supposed to have a meeting, but, with IWD, but they, canceled it because of the weather. That's all I had.
Okay, I gotta go back to the week of the 6th, had an animal shelter meeting on the 8th, and, we discussed stuff then, we are loaded and inundated with cats. So if anybody wants a cat, go see them. Then on, Friday the 10th, had a Board of Health meeting, and that got canceled because we didn't have a quorum. Last week, I missed a couple of meetings there because I've been down and isolated, so that's all I had.
Last week, I didn't have any official extracurricular meetings.
Wednesday, 3:00, City Hall for me, for Humboldt County Housing. We had updates on the building trades. Discussed that with Superintendent was there, and Tate Saturn was there representing the school board. And we discussed future projects, I guess. The thing is, that they got a lot of kids out there that are getting involved in this, and it's hard for one guy to manage
One bit.
14 kids on some of these things. So we're trying to work out some different things for the kids.
Back to using hammers instead of nail guns.
Yeah, well, they haven't had too many issues, but, that was one of the topics, and then we discussed these Soyland homes that are being built down here on, I think it's 2nd Avenue South and 8th Street South. This company was gonna provide 2 homes in town and use them as model homes, and as everyone knows, the construction industry really took a big hit due to supply shortages. Mainly, their biggest problem was labor shortages. They buy these home packages from up at Grettinger, and they just couldn't get the labor to put it together. So finally, they're working down there now, and they're hoping to have them finish here mid-January. I thought that's a pretty steep deadline, but they're gonna push hard on them to get them done and have them up for show and for sale in April, the way it sounds. So, that'll be good to have that done. They talk like they got a lot of communities that are interested in their product. So, they got 11 others already on the books to build in other communities. So, I think it's a great infill house, like for some of these dilapidated houses in town that they could tear down and, fill in these smaller lots. It'd be good for Humboldt if it works out. And that's all I had. That was Wednesday, prior to the windstorm. You have anything else for us?
I would like to give a shout out to the deal that went on last night up at the high school. For anybody that attended, it was packed to the rafters for people. I can't compliment, Tony Ursuline and the kids from, Purdue that got on a bus, drove all the way out here, spent the night, wrestled, got on a bus afterwards, and drove all the way back to Purdue, for the amount of time that they spent on the highway and wrestling, and the amount of little kids that were there that got to witness a Division I wrestling meet in Humboldt, Iowa. Kent was up there taking pictures, it was, in my opinion, it was a first-class deal, so I would like to give a shout-out to, thank Tony and the Purdue people, and Kevin Dresser and the Iowa State people. It was a huge, event in Humboldt, and a lot of people around that came from all over that witnessed it, so it was fun.
Yeah,
Enjoyed
it was a great thing for Humboldt. Say, Dave, do you wanna comment on the gentleman who helped put together the haunted forest and...
Yeah, I'd like to send a comment out to the community, thanking Corey, guy's last name.
Larson?
Larson from, the, Extreme Tattoos downtown. He's really been promoting the last few years to get people back into the county and the city. He put on the, for a haunted forest down there in Sheldon. It was #1 in the state again this year. He got, the Christmas parade organized, and that went over good, I guess. And, he's also got, other stuff going on, promoting the Friday nights, driving and, cruising, I guess they call it, and stuff. So it's, I think that, Corey ought to be recognized and, thanked for trying to get stuff back into the county and the city.
This was on the fairground.
Yeah, I think that's, was a great thing they done out there at Sheldon, and, I did attend that Christmas parade, and it was very nice, had a lot of people there.
He's got the Christmas lights up there too.
Oh, up to Sheldon? Okay.
Out to Sheldon, the last couple of years, he put Christmas lights up and stuff out there and had, businesses and organizations put up lights.
I'll have to send him a thank you. All right, anything else for the board?
Make a motion to adjourn if we're done.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 We are adjourned at 10:03.